Hello. So today I'm going to work a tutorial with you guys on how to do this beautiful flower coaster. It's so easy, like a 10-15 minute project. I worked it with a couple different colors here, so you can see to make this as beginner friendly as possible, I'm going to work a solid color, but I will show you in the tutorial where I switch colors if this is the effect you're looking for. So let's get started and work this one together. All right, let's go through some of the tools that we're going to need so that we can complete this project from start to finish without any interruptions. I'm using a worsted weight cotton yarn. This is 100% cotton. You could use a cotton blend. I wouldn't recommend using acrylic only because it's a coaster and cotton is what we like to use. So I don't make the rules, I just follow the rules. You're going to need a 5mm crochet hook. I'd grab some stitch markers if you're a beginner. This will make it a lot easier to determine the beginning and the ends of your round. And you're going to need a yarn needle and some scissors. So if you have all of that, I can guarantee that we can work through this coaster together. For our first round, or to start off our coaster, we're going to work a magic ring. I know there's 1,000 ways to do it. This is how I do mine. I just wrap my working yarn around my middle finger like this, insert my hook under both of those loops around my finger, grab onto my working yarn. I pull it through like this, and then to start this off, I'm going to do a chain 1. So that does not count as a stitch. Now, for round 1, we're going to work 12 half double crochets into our magic ring. To do a half double crochet, we yarn over. We're going to insert our hook into our magic ring. We'll yarn over and pull up a loop, and this is going to leave us with 3 loops on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So that's how you do a half double crochet. If you're a beginner and you're not confident in identifying your stitches, at this point, I would grab a stitch marker and I would just mark your first stitch so that when we come back around, it's easy to identify. I know when I first started crocheting, I always had a little bit of difficulty identifying the first stitch, especially if there's a chain 1 at the beginning. So I've marked my first half double crochet, and now let's work 11 more so we have a total of 12. Again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop so there's 3 on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. So I'm going to work a total of 12 half double crochets into my magic ring, and then I will meet you and we can work round 2 together. So I've worked my 12th half double crochet into my magic ring. If you want, you can also mark your final stitch so you know where to do your stitches when you're coming back around on your second round. Stitch markers are totally optional. I'm just trying to make this as beginner friendly as possible. So this was our very first stitch that we worked, and to connect our first round, we're going to work a slip stitch into that first stitch. So the chain 1 doesn't count. Into the first stitch, we'll do a slip stitch. So to do that, just remember where your stitch is. So I'm just going to mark it with my thumbnail there. I'm going to take out that stitch marker. So I'm going to work a slip stitch into this stitch. So that's the first stitch. You insert your hook, make sure you're under both loops. Then you'll take your working yarn and yarn over and pull through that stitch. And then you'll continue to pull through the other loop on your hook. That's a slip stitch. Now you're gonna have something that looks like this. The great part about the magic ring is how magic it is. So grab that tail and just pull your tail tight. And you've closed your magic ring. You've had your slip knot and you have successfully completed round 1. So let's do round 2 together now. So to start it off, we're going to do a chain 1. That does not count as a stitch. And in every single stitch around, we're going to work a half double crochet increase, which essentially is just 2 half double crochets into each stitch. So let me show you. We're going to work into our first stitch here. We're going to work a half double crochet increase, or 2 half double crochets. Yarn over, that's our first stitch. Insert your hook, yarn over, pull up a loop so there's 3 on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3, and then into that same stitch you're going to do another half double crochet. So just like that. And then I'm going to grab my stitch marker and just mark my very first stitch again so I don't forget. So that was my second stitch and this is my first stitch here. Mark it with a stitch marker, and then when we come back around we know we're not going to lose our spot. So that was 2. So now we're going to work 2 half double crochets into your next stitch, or a half double crochet increase into your next stitch. And that's what we're going to work into every stitch around. So when we make it to this stitch marker here at the end and we work our final 2 stitches, you should have 24 half double crochets. I would highly recommend giving it a count because it's important for our last round that we have the appropriate count. So it doesn't take long to just quickly count to make sure we did 2 stitches in each stitch of the previous round. I will meet you at the end of this round and I'll show you how to finish it off. So I've come up to that stitch marker. I'll just remove it. I know I have to work 2 final half double crochets into that stitch. And then at this point, like I said, you could give it a count to guarantee you have 24 stitches. This is what it should look like when you come up to the end of round 2. So I'm just going to do my due diligence of stitch marking into my last stitch. And then just like the first round, we're going to finish the second round by slip stitching into that first stitch that we marked there. So just like I said, the same as the first round, take out your stitch marker, insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, and then keep pulling through, and you've slip stitched your work together. So that's the end of round 2. At this point, if you're interested in changing your color, I would snip my yarn, and this is where I would be attaching my new color. So this is about the same size here, and then the rest I do in a different color. If that's what you're looking for, I'm going to keep it super beginner friendly, and I'm going to keep working in this color. But this is your opportunity to change if you want to. I have done a color change video in a previous video, so feel free to go to my page and give it a scroll if you are a little bit unsure of how to do a color change. All right, so let's work round 3 then. We'll start it off with a chain 1, and that doesn't count as a stitch. And in your very first stitch right here, we're going to do a half double crochet. And then we'll grab our stitch marker and mark that off. And then into your next stitch, you're going to work the half double crochet increase, so 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. And round 3 is that easy. We're going to repeat all the way around this round. Wow, it's a lot of rounds. 1 half double crochet and then the half double crochet increase. 1 half double crochet and half double crochet increase. So I'll show you one more time. In this one here, we're only going to do the 1 half double crochet, and into your next, you're going to work 2. So pretty easy. You're just going to work the increase every second stitch. When you're reaching the end, your stitch marker should be an increased stitch, so you should be working 2 half double crochets in that. If not, you've skipped something somewhere, so just take a look, and there should be a total of 36 stitches. So I'll meet you at the end of this round, and I'll show you how to finish it off. All right, so I've come up to the end and reached my stitch marker, and I've worked 1 half double crochet in the stitch before it. So as I mentioned previously, your last stitch is going to be an increase. So we're going to work the final 2 half double crochets into that stitch. And then we'll grab our stitch marker and we'll just mark it off. And just like all of our other ones, we're going to slip stitch into the top of that first double crochet, half double crochet, sorry, that we did of the previous round. And this is what we're looking like at the end of round 3. So this is the final round before the border, and this is what's going to give us the flower or the petals of our flower coaster. To start off round 4, we're going to chain 1, and then into our first stitch, we will work a single crochet. So insert our hook into that first stitch there, yarn over and pull up a loop. Going to leave you with 2 on your hook, and then you'll yarn over and pull through 2. I got my stitch marker, mark my very first single crochet, and then this is what we're going to repeat across this row. We're going to skip the next stitch. Into the following, we'll work 5 double crochets. So yarn over, skip a stitch and into the next, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, leaving you with 3 on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through your final 2. So that's 1 double crochet, and into that same stitch work 4 more for a total of 5. So show you again, yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2 of the loops on your hook, and then yarn over and pull through your final 2. So that's 2, then we'll work 3, 4, and then like I said, all into that same stitch, we'll work our 5th double crochet, Next, we skip the next stitch and we follow it up with a single crochet. So skipping this one and into the next, work a single crochet, and then you've completed your first petal. So the single crochets kind of pull down the double crochets to create that curved petal edge. I'll show you one more time what to do around this row. Skip your next stitch, then you will work 5 double crochets in the following. So I've worked 4 here and then 5. Then you skip your, then you skip your next stitch and you work a single crochet in the following. So keep working that around. When you work your final 5 double crochet cluster over here, I will meet you and I'll show you how to join it to finish off the petal row, or round, I guess I should say. So I'll meet you at the end of this round. Okay, so I'm actually meeting you before I work my last petal, just so I can kind of explain how the ending of this is working. So I've worked a petal here, I've skipped a stitch, I've worked a single crochet. Now what I have left is that's the last stitch of my row. So I'm going to be skipping a stitch, and in the following, so this one here, I'll work my flower or my double crochet cluster. And then the way it works to finish it off, just this round, is we'll skip our final stitch and then we just work a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the other row. So that's how we're going to finish this one off. So in the second last stitch before your stitch marker, that's where you're going to work your 5 double crochets. Sometimes it's a little bit tricky to work around a stitch marker. If you can remember where this one is, just because you're working beside it, you could probably take it out and make it a little bit easier. So I've done my cluster there. And then this really, by skipping your last stitch and just working into this one here, you're really completing it so it's even all the way around for your petals. So you take that one out, you're going to skip that last stitch, and then into that top of that single crochet, you'll work a slip stitch, just like that. So that's the end of round 4. So the flower part's complete. At this point here, you really could clip your yarn and you could weave in your ends and you could leave it like this. So it is technically complete like this. I like to add, I don't know if you can really tell the difference, but I do a slip stitch border. So I really just slip stitch in every stitch around, and that's the difference. You can kind of see it just gives a more defined edge. So I'm going to do that here to show you, but you're totally welcome to finish your coaster here. So you can finish weaving your ends. I'll show you how I do my border. So that's the first stitch we worked into. So round 5, my finished edge border, I'm going to work back into that same stitch and I'm going to work another slip stitch just like this. Sometimes the first one's a little bit tricky, but you finish your first slip stitch. And then in every single stitch around, you will do that. So I'm actually going to mark my slip stitch. Sometimes, I mean, it doesn't really matter how many years I've crocheted. I find stitch markers just save me time from having to recount my stitches. So obviously if you can put the stitch marker in, and then what we're going to do is just work slip stitches all the way around to the end. So in your next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, keep pulling through, and it's a pretty easy border. Nothing special, nothing fancy. It almost just adds like a little bit more of support at the end of your coaster. So I think that's why I like it. So what I'll do is I'll finish working the border and I'll meet you at the end and show you how we finish this project off. Okay, a little bit high up there. So I've reached the end where my stitch marker was. I've worked in my last stitch, and then what I'm going to do is just work a slip stitch into that first, you guessed it, slip stitch of the previous round. Sometimes it's tricky to get under there. And then once I have that through, grab my scissors, snip, snip, and I just pull it through like that. Oops, like that. So I just really pulled it through and tightened it up a bit. So I'm sitting with this right now. That's the end of our crochet part. We're going to finish it up using our yarn needle. So we're going to turn our work over. We're going to grab the, I didn't really leave a long piece, but that's okay. Add your yarn to your yarn needle. you're going to pull your magic circle tight, and then once that's done, you're just going to start weaving in your ends. So this is just the finishing part of a crochet project. For the magic circle, it's nice. I just work underneath all of the stitches and I just go around until I'm confident that it's not going to fall out. We'll leave it like this for this tutorial. So I've worked that piece in. I'm just going to snip the yarn and then I'm going to weave in this side. So I'll kind of show you what I do. I mean, I'm sure there's probably a perfect way to do this, but this is what I do. I know that right now this is the front of my coaster, so it's going to sit up like this. I don't like to see the yarn sticking up like that, so I have it there. Usually I'll work it underneath the stitch this way and pull the yarn back through to the back of my work, and that's where I'll weave my ends in. So I mean, depending what colors you're using, if you switch colors or not, you can just weave in the ends like normal. But by pulling it into the back, you can't really see that joining stitch, so that's why I kind of like that. Anyways, so I'll weave in the rest of this here. And once I'm done, I'll snip my last piece of yarn and finito. Get ready to scrap pieces. And here is your flower coaster. Super easy. Like I said before, it works up. If you get the hang of it in like 15 minutes, you can make a ton of them. I'm currently working on a pattern for the holder for all the coasters so that you could have them all stacked up in a nice holder on the side of your table, wherever you're going to keep them. I really, really love this pattern. My final suggestion would be, and I'm not going to do a tutorial on this, is to block it. You could just like grab some, I mean, you can use yarn needles for this, and just on each corner of your flower, block it down and spray it with some water. You could even steam it if you have a steamer, and that'll make it so it stays kind of flat and rigid and coaster-like. So that is my flower coaster tutorial, and I hope you enjoyed it.